Okay, so if you're back here, you like the first bit and you just want to see how we could improve it a bit. So first, an obvious improvement, let's just run it again and see what potentially could go wrong, is when somebody doesn't know what to do and types in something like 1. Well, obviously there what we've done is we've typed in 1 as a string and it's expecting an integer. So when we try and do this command here, int, which is, remember, where we look at this, it's in line 10, here it is. When we try and convert what the user types in into an integer and it's not an integer, this command fails and it gives us this error. So this is where the problem is here in our code. And it will work, obviously. I mean, here I typed in 1, but quite obviously, just in case somebody does something daft and just types a letter, it obviously, oh gosh, I don't know what's gone on there. There we go. Run that again. I think I was just a bit quick off the mark then. Don't think it'd actually come back with a prompt. What number am I thinking of? Obviously we'll just put a letter in there. Still the same problem. So it's not considered good practice to do this, really, to immediately take what's typed in and try and convert it into an int, because if it fails then your program just crashes out. So really we need another way to think about how to do this line, and generally what we try and do is we try to do this test and try and do this conversion, and if it fails we capture the failure. Now if we put all of this code that we're about to create here in our main program ends up looking quite cluttered. It's quite neat and tidy at the moment. So really what we want to do is put this in another function. So I'm going to create myself another function that says get number input. So here's my get number input function. I'm not going to pass it any parameters, and we're going to call it here when the user has been prompted to enter their data. So we don't need to do the prompt within here, that's still going to be up here in our main program. So we're going to come here and straight away we're going to say user data, because they're going to type something in, equals input. So it doesn't matter what they've typed in now, then that's going to go into user data. What we then want to do is to try and convert user data into an integer. So we're going to create a variable called user_num, and we're going to try and do the conversion now. So int user data. So this is essentially what we've just done before. We've taken user data, we're passing it to the int function, and it's going to return it as an integer into user_num. Clearly if user data is text, it is a string of some form, it's going to fail, so we haven't done anything else. What we actually do to kind of do this safely is we do it inside what's called a try block. So or an exception block. So we're going to try and do this command. If this command works, that's it. It works and it's done. If it fails, rather than crash out of the program, we can catch the error with an except command. The except command will then allow us to not crash out the program, but just accept that this didn't work and go and do something else. And here I want to say something like print, please enter numeric values only. So there's a bit of a kind of a prompt to get the person to do that. So if it worked, then obviously user_num will work, otherwise it will print the error. And then at the end of our code, what we need to do is we need to return user_num. So if it worked, user_num will now have an integer in it, and that will be returned as this function get number input. So here I call the function by saying get number input. It's a function, so it needs the parentheses at the end. So again, if you're not familiar with it now, this should illustrate why we've got main at the very end. It means that when we run the Python script, it will come through here, it will define main, and it will set all this up. thinking, oh, I wonder what the hell get number input is. I don't need to worry about it yet. It will come down here and it will define this function, so it now knows what get number input is. And by the time we get to the bottom, we've seen all the functions. So when we now run main and come back up here, and we're running through main and we get to the get number input function, it's already seen it because it passed through there. Okay, so obviously there's a number of errors in here for those of you who spotted them, but let's pick them out as things go wrong. Oh, okay, that was one I hadn't spotted. User data equals input. Okay, bad spelling on my part, so let's correct that. Obviously in these small programs it's quite easy to spot them, but again, remember, you'd go in looking at a line by line, and this illustrates why it's quite good to keep running your code and debugging it as you're developing it. Don't try and write the whole thing in one go and then debug it, because it's a nightmare to find errors. So let's run the program again. What number am I thinking of? So we'll do it kind of properly first of all. We'll press 5. Oh, that was too small. We'll try 7. That was too big. We'll go for 6, and that was just right. So all that kind of worked. That's not really tested our function very well, because it worked. When it called the get number function, we were always putting in numeric values here, so this try worked. Let's see what happens when we run the exception now. What number am I thinking of? 56y. Okay, so it's all gone a bit horribly wrong now. So we're returning user num, local variable user num reference before assignment. So what's happened here? Well, it failed in this command because we obviously didn't put a numeric value in, so it did the exception. It did print enter numeric values only, but then it got to the end and it just returned user num. Well, we hadn't assigned user num because we'd never run this bit of script here, because it failed, and this bit was never actually assigned a value. Well, think about what really should have gone in our loop. We wrote it very quickly without really thinking it through. When we're getting the user number to be inputted, if it fails, what do we actually want to happen at this point? Well, if you think about it, we want to go round and try and get the user to put another number in. At the moment, even if they get it right or wrong, it still finishes and returns at the end of the function. So really, this particular block of code here needs to be repeating. So we'll repeat it in a while loop. We'll look at how we're going to do that in a minute. So we'll do while user data try. We just indent everything in. So we want to keep going around this loop until the user gets a right answer. When they get the right answer, we want to finish the loop. Now, we could do it as we've done it up here in main by creating another variable called valid answer. We can set that to false initially, and we can test that within our loop. But quite a neat way to do this, if you've not seen it before, is to do something quite weird. In our while condition here, we put true. Seems a bit bizarre, this, while true. Well, true is always true, which means the while loop will always execute. So we'll just endlessly go around this loop. That's not going to solve our problem, is it? It doesn't matter whether you get it right or wrong, you're just going to keep going around the loop. Well, Python allows us to do this really neat thing, which is break out of the loop. So what we can do here is, while it's true, so it means do it forever, get the data, try it. If it works, and it works and converts it into integer, then break out of the loop and finish. Otherwise, print enter a numeric value only. You're now at the end of the loop, and it'll go around and repeat again. Okay, so let's give that a go. Okay, I missed what I did then. Let's try that again. There we go. What number I think of? It's 7 there. So I'll just go too high, go too low. Okay, I know that works. Put some garbage in. Oh, please enter numeric values only. Go really, really high. Yeah, too big. Go really low. Too small. Just test 54t. Yeah, that was not a numeric value. Can't actually remember what the right answer was, so just take a sneaky look back up the top. 7. Put 7 in. Obviously 7 in text is not the numeric value 7. The number 7, well done, and it finishes. Okay, so that's improved it by creating a separate function to get our numeric input, and within our test we now can test whether it's actually an integer before we do the conversion. We could do all sorts of things in here. We could test whether it's in range. You know, they may only be able to enter numbers in the range 1 to 10 in there, I don't know. So we can do all sorts of other tests in here. Okay, how else might we improve the program? Well, a couple of little things. Generally we try not to hard code numbers within a Python program. Because this is quite bad. These, you know, as the program grows, will get lost in there, and you might not remember what 1 and 10 were. And if the user wants to come along and change the program so it works on different values, they'd have to plow through the code to find 1 and 10. So generally what we do is we'd assign these at the start of the code. So maybe our min val is assign the value 1, and max val is assign the value 50 rather than 10. It's very easy to guess the numbers between 1 and 10. So obviously now I'm going to create between min val and max val. So now we've got the possibility of changing these in the program. It might be quite advantageous to give the user some idea of the range of numbers. So in here, within our loop, what number I'm thinking of, or maybe outside of the loop actually, we don't want to keep bombarding them with the fact we've got a range of numbers. So here I might say print the range of numbers is min val to max val. Okay, so that should do that now, min val to max val. Okay, let's just run that quick test. Oh, end of line literal. I've obviously missed something out here. Print, I've got an open close quotes, got an open close quotes. Max val, oh, I didn't need that quote on the end because it was a variable at the end. Oh, what range of number is 1 to 50? What number am I thinking of? I can see up there it's 20. So I'll go to high, go to low, test my text now, and get the right answer. Excellent, so it works now. The only thing obviously to do now is we put that in for debugging. So you can either remove it, or what you can do, if you're not familiar in Python, in the idle editor, if you do a Alt 3 on a line, it actually just comments the line out for you. So it's now not part of the program, but if somebody wanted to kind of come and have a play with this, they could easily uncomment this line and at least see the random number when it started. So that's improved it a bit. What are the other things that are clearly missing? Well, we haven't commented this program particularly well, have we? So another important thing as you're going through is to comment the program, and we generally expect to see things like this function is used to get numeric data from the user. It tests if it is an int and repeats until the user enters a numeric value. It returns the value as an int. Okay, so we've just put some comments in there. I'm not suggesting that's particularly brilliant, and again I can just highlight them and Alt 3 them, and they now all become comments. So it's very important certainly to comment each of your functions, so you explain what the function does. Generally you give some description of the function. If it's expecting to have parameters passed in, you explain what the input parameters are and you explain what parameters it returns. So somebody looking at this function doesn't have to delve through your code to figure it out, but can just read the description. And if you've got any bits of your code that just need a bit of kind of explanation as what they are, then you'd put that on. So I mean, we all know what this one means, but obviously I'll put here, this checks for the correct answer. So I've commented that bit of code a bit more clearly, just so that I myself later on can come back and remember what it did, or somebody else reading my code can remember what it did. So comments again are very important. Okay, so there's your basic bit of code. Hopefully that was useful in Python. Something we've chucked together quite quickly, and obviously what we want to go on and develop ideas from here. Thanks for watching.